Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the public meeting of August 24th, 2022. I'll call the meeting to order. And so the purpose of the meeting is to do an overview on Greater Madawaska and hear from people about concerns. And I'll turn it over to our CAO.
I'd like at this time to welcome everyone to this meeting this very warm evening. And I will provide some background information about why we are all here tonight. The concern about docks on Madawaska Street was brought to Council in 2021 after there were inquiries received. The inquiries surrounded who owned the property between Madawaska Street and Calabogie Lake. Who gave approval for the docks to be on this property? Can anyone put a dock on these lands? The township was unable to answer these questions as it was unclear who owned the land. This brought concern, and the question was, if the township in fact owned the property between Madawaska Street and Calabogie Lake, and the land was used for personal use, would this mean potential liability, exclusivity related to the perceived private use of public property, perceived private use of property not belonging to the dock owners, long-term impacts of not properly regulating the use of land? Therefore, a decision was made to conduct a survey. A letter was sent April of this year to the residents along Madawaska Street to inform them of the planned survey work. The letter stated the purpose in surveying Madawaska Street was to confirm the limits of township-owned lands in this area. In May 2022, the survey was completed and presented to Council. The survey showed that all land to the south of Madawaska Street, and possibly also some of the land underneath the water, is in fact owned by the township. Staff then consulted with township insurance and solicitor about the effect of the land ownership confirmation and the existing private docks, which are in place along the water's edge. Both the insurance provider and solicitor confirmed that the dock owners should be made aware of the township's ownership of the land and recommended that action be taken to address the township's liability. Staff posted on the site that the use of the land is at the owner's sole risk, or occupier's sole risk, followed by delivery of notices to advise the township's position on the land on the use of the land for private docks. It is noted that in the case of the docks, which presently exist, owners have not been asked to remove the docks for the summer season. Following the initial steps taken, staff have given public notice as follows: to advise the public that no additional docks would be permitted on township land. 2, to advise that as of October 1st, 2022, docks shall be removed and there shall be no storage of docks or boat lifts on township land. Currently, there are no decisions have been made if docks will be permitted to return in 2023, and what steps will be taken, if any, if docks are not removed by October 1st, 2022. There have been requests previously to place docks on other township lands, and the requests were rejected. If Council were to allow the existing docks to remain and/or new docks to be added along Madawaska Street without any regulation or criteria, this may lead to requests for docks at other locations such as Heritage Point and Barnett Park. In the Growth Readiness Plan that was prepared by a consultant, recommendation number 10 is to conduct a waterfront development plan in the village of Calabogie. My recommendation to the new council will be to form an ad hoc committee of interested ratepayers and parties as to what should be done, if anything, on Madawaska Street. There is limited opportunity for development due to the mere size of the property. Things to be considered may include sprucing up of the cenotaph, more flowers, benches, etc. I do not believe that the township needs to spend money on creating a plan that can be done by a committee of concerned citizens. Aside from the docks on Madawaska Street, there have been some concerns raised over the impact assessment of the property north of Madawaska Street. I have followed up with MPAC, and they have advised the following. A property is considered waterfront if it meets one of these criteria. has direct access to a natural or man-made waterway such as a lake, river, channel, or canal, is separated from the water by right-of-way, road, or unopened shore road allowance. The properties of concern are separated from Calabogie Lake by Madawaska Street. It is because of these factors that there has been an adjustment applied to the properties to reflect these negative influences. The property owners along Madawaska Street can review the property profiles on About My Property on the MPAC website, and they will note the application of a waterfront variable K, indirect waterfront, no waterfront ownership variable. Further, ratepayers can contact MPAC call center to discuss the actual amount of adjustment applied to their specific property. Following this meeting, this public meeting, staff will review the comments, concerns, and questions raised and will put forward a report to council regarding the docks and future of Madawaska Street. You will be able to view on the large screen as staff requests questions that have been raised for the purpose of ensuring questions were captured correctly. Mayor Hunt will call upon registered speakers if you had not registered to speak and would like to. Mayor Hunt will ask anyone who would like to speak once after all the registered speakers have had their opportunity. Members of council or I may ask for clarification on your comments or questions. This meeting is being recorded and will be available on the Township's YouTube channel. As per the procedural bylaw, a public meeting shall have a time limit of 2 hours unless extended with the approval of the majority of the members of council present. After 4 hours, the meeting shall be adjourned. If after 4 hours, not everyone has had the opportunity to speak, a further public meeting will be held. In the interest of time and to allow everyone the opportunity to speak, we ask that you keep your comments to under 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. So as the CIO suggested, this meeting is to provide feedback to council and staff. Council is not here tonight to debate. However, all comments, concerns, questions will be taken into consideration. We ask that your comments, questions, concerns are put forward in a respectful manner. And at this time, I'll call on the first speaker to the microphone, Mr. Luc Goulet. Luc?
Good evening. Thank you for coming and setting up this meeting. I don't think you realize what this letter you sent to the residents of Madawaska Street would cause, but obviously from all of my neighbors here on Madawaska Street, I'm surprised too. So, the survey completed states the township owns the land south of Madawaska Street to the water's edge. We're not disputing this. It's correct. However, as you since removed manager of planning and development has been remiss in sharing, is this land is a road allowance. This is not fair game property. You're required by law to give us access to that water. Our docks have been on those lands since the 50s. That is you must give us access. We as residents understand, wait a minute, there are maybe, if any residents at all have used the land to put their docks on during the course of the winter, it's never been over the winter. So I don't understand why the letter came out in the first place. You say the land must be free and clear. I get it, it's a liability, but no one has ever done anything to warrant this. So I have to ask, why this? Why now? So my belief is the council and staff of the Township of Greater Madawaska, after having had a consultant firm complete the Municipal Revitalization Review report, saw stars in their eyes, and they were to create this perceived down village walking path marina that will utilize the KMP Trail Causeway through Bluff Point to Heritage Park and around through Madawaska Street. This might be great in theory, but in reality, how would this township ever create such a concept when we've already been inundated with lawsuits from residents? The staff and council have secured a $2 million debenture without realizing or preparing for the increase in interest rates due to inflation. So how will we as a community be able to grow economically? Assuming there are grants for these projects, the township is required to provide the same amount of dollars it requests as a grant. How can this township do this with minimal reserves? I, as a taxpayer, will not allow you to increase taxes to support this. I tell you this today. I ask myself, was this ineptitude or arrogance on the part of the council and staff? I'm tending to lean towards the latter. As what I heard at the last council meeting that I attended was a sentence of, well, the next council will have to deal with that, said by Mr. Brian Hunt, when the treasurer stated the debenture has been assessed at a 1.5% interest and will indeed increase to 4 or 5 possibly percent. As a council, shame on you. Shame on us for having you here. You need to get better. I implore all people here this evening to ask the potential candidates for this upcoming election, what is their platform? What will they do to move this township forward? If you do not like what you are hearing, do not vote for them. As for economic development, I ask to be part of this committee that will oversee any and all development pertaining to Madawaska Street and the Township of Greater Madawaska as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. We didn't write down any questions that you wanted staff to look into. Was there, like, we did hear what you said, but was there anything pertaining to the docks in Greater Madawaska? Because we're here for the concerns. Was there something there that you wanted recorded for staff to look into? No? Okay, thank you. And next, we'll call on Leo Mulvihill. Leo?
Good evening, councillors. I would like to get this picture put up to show what we had in the lobby. Oh, you can't? Oh, okay. But anyway, Brian, I want to put a picture of the dock that we had put in for a swimming dock for the children of Calabogie, the people from Calabogie Lodge, whatever, that wanted to use our dock. They were more than welcome to. But anyway, this is why I am here. I'm more here for my nieces, my nephew, my grandchildren, and the children of Calabogie. I'm not a very good speaker, but I think in my heart I need to do this. The people living on Blake Street put in a swimming dock at the end of their street to give the public a place to swim, to jump, and to have fun. For the last 5 years, the public has enjoyed this dock, which has been completely removed at the end of each season. This year, the dock was put in, I guess we were a little bit late. We put it in June 26th. We received a letter from the township stating, move it or we will move it at your cost. So we removed the dock. We were going to fight it, but we said, no, we're not going to stir the fire. We're not going to do that stuff because there's no sense in it. We all know that the property belongs to the township. I've known that since I was 4 years old. But moving forward, done. And we would never stop anybody from using the dock. If somebody wanted to use the dock, we've been over swimming, my wife and myself. We walk across the road and we go swimming at the cenotaph. I can't tell you how many people have stopped and asked me if they can swim in Calabogie Lake. Can we fish in Calabogie Lake? I'm saying to them, yes, you're more than welcome to come and swim where we do, but if you don't have water shoes, it's not very nice to get in and out of the water. But if you want to go down to Blake Street, there's a small dock across the road that you can go on to. And I'd point down and show them Gail's boat. I said, right beside it, there's a small dock that they're more than welcome to use. So the people were using the dock quite regular. So my question, and I want this for my grandchildren, my nieces, my nephew, and all the children of Calabogie, is the intent of this township to upgrade the dock, Mourns dock, that has been there for as long as I can remember, 60 years. There always was a dock there. It was always maintained by this township. It was decked by this township. I give money to put decking on that dock when we had recreation. So are we, the township of Greater Madawaska, are we going to repair this dock and bringing it up to speed for the children to jump into the water and have fun? Or are we eliminating swimming in Calabogie Lake on Front Street? This is my question to this township.
So Leo, if I summarize then, what you're suggesting is that you had a dock in there in previous years, you were late putting it in this year, and that you're looking for there to be, you to be allowed to put a dock in?
No,
or
we do not want to put our dock in. We will go to the public dock, which is at Mourns Dock, that this township, Bag Blyfield had it, Greater Madawaska looked after it. They put sand in every year for years and years and years at the dock to make it easy to get in and out of the water. We've redecked it, we've rebuilt it. Somewhere in the wisdom of the council, they ripped it out. They put in a dock that you can go down and sit and look at the beautiful view, but they're not thinking of the children of the community.
So
what do you want them to do, Brian?
So if I'm hearing you correctly, then you're looking to be that to be enhanced so that it's so that kids can swim from it. So
I'm looking at the township replacing that dock or fixing that dock, bringing it up to where there's 4 feet of water at the end, so when the kids jump into the water, they don't need to hit bottom.
Okay.
I would greatly like to see wash sand put into the water, dumped at the edge so the waves can wash the sand out into it. It's going to make it better fishing for the kids because the fish will come and spawn in this sand that we're putting in the lake. So it's a win-win for everybody. So, but that is my question, and I would like to know. And the new council, if I got to write up a letter and take it to the stores and get a 10,000 signatures on it, that the people want a dock for their kids and for their grandchildren, this is what I'll have to do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we hear you, and that's recorded, Allison?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
And the next speaker is Sharon Pierce. Sharon?
Good evening. I want to thank you for having this public meeting. And I just want to start off by saying that, unfortunately, I feel it's a little late in the process, in the change management process of any project planning. As a resident of Madawaska Street, I must actually ask you, Allison, as a question. I never received a letter dated April of any intent for survey. That just came up from what you said. So I'm going to let you know that we never received a letter of intent for survey. With respect to change management and where we are today, this open forum should have been at the beginning of the process. As residents, we should never have received the letter that we did to remove our docks just randomly. We had no insight that that letter was coming. So you can imagine how upset we were, because we have always had a dock since we moved in there 18 years ago. Kevin and I and the family moved in. That dock had been there since 1943, according to our neighbor, Bob Gora, who used to swim and boat off of it. Anyhow, besides that. So hopefully, I know this council is disbanding shortly, and I do hope that the new council will have better change management processes. So for us, you alluded to the impact statement already, Allison. We do have our impact statement that clearly states that we are a waterfront dwelling. You mentioned about some clause K. I'm not aware of that clause. So the fact that we are a waterfront dwelling, and that coupled with riparian rights being the access of water from an owner's land, we actually are one of 4 waterfront styles. There is a private direct water access, there's a private non-direct access, which is across a roadway, which is our case. There's deeded water access, and there's public access. So our impact statement, plus our riparian rights, which once you have one of those types of waterfront, you are allowed to access the water from your own land, erect a dock, a boathouse, a fire pit, a hammock on the water's edge. We haven't done any of that. We just put some docks in there, okay? So with the riparian rights, we have to meet the requirements of local government bodies, and in this case, the municipality being the government level that is seeming to question our riparian rights. Perhaps it could be something as simple as private dock, use at own risk. Maybe it's something simple. We have a simple solution here. So we feel we have the right to access our docks and put our docks in, as does many homeowners on the waterfront in Calabogie. Not just Calabogie, from Burnstown to the Calabogie Dam, I don't know what its title is, the new dam, there's an easement. If you've ever kayaked or gone along that waterway, you will see that people not only put docks, they put cabins, they put almost full houses, after the easement. Bluff Point, there is the easement there. People have their docks. There's 2-story docks. There's, you name it, it's there. And there doesn't seem to be any concern about that. So we're questioning our right to access our water and have our docks in, and we just don't understand why it has come to fruition to this point. Also, when Kevin and I bought 18 years ago, there was a seller property information statement that comes with your real estate sale. At the point that we purchased, one of the check boxes for the seller is pending applications for shoreline improvement. It was checked no. Are there any disputes concerning shoreline improvements on the shore or shoreline improvements on the shoreline? It was checked no. We are water people. As most of you know, we have always had boats. So we used to water ski. Those were big check marks for us when we purchased. We don't want the value of our house, our property, to be devalued because we do not have access to put our docks in. Okay. My third point is that deadline of October 1st. I think Luke talked about it. No one puts their docks up on the municipal township property. We have a permanent dock, plus we add a boat lift, plus a fen dock, which is removable. We store that all on our permanent dock that has been there for over since 1943. If you look in, you can see the old cribs. They're there. We don't have a liability issue because we put our docks there for winter storage. If you look at the township dock, which is, I forget what it's called, like a viewing dock or observation dock, it does not get removed in the winter. It's more of a liability. Someone can fall off that 4 feet into the water easily. So I just don't understand how all of a sudden we have a liability issue with us putting our docks, our removable docks onto our permanent dock for the winter when the sidewalks aren't even plowed. So to me, that's the liability. You've posted signs that sidewalks aren't plowed. I have to push my grandchild around on icy roads as big trucks of lumber come down the road. Anyhow, I'm straying. But my point is, I don't understand why all of a sudden there is a liability. And if there is, because you've consulted your insurance agent, I know when the Dreco went through in May, our fen dog blew away and broke, and it wasn't municipality insurance that was covering the replacement cost. It's our own homeowner's insurance. We're not calling upon you to deal with any insurance issues for our docks. So, in closing, well, actually, I've heard about some of the rumors about the development. I just hope that we as residents and all taxpayers, everyone in this room and who didn't show up today, are consulted on these changes and the plans for development, that we have the opportunity to voice our opinions before things happen. We must be consulted. And it's not just about the business owners and making money economically for businesses here and bringing money into the township. We are a tight-knit community and a lot of residents, and we are all residents on Madawaska Street. There's no room for business there. We are the residents. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sharon. So the main point I got at the end was that we're looking for, they got a dock in the water and the ability to store the boat lift on the dock. So that is recorded? Okay.
And maybe I'll just add to that. Would you expect us with a letter to remove docks as of October 1st to remove our permanent dock, wooden dock?
Well, we'll have to come back to you on that, but the permanent dock in the water, we'll have to review that. I don't know if it was the intention to remove that. It was, I think, material off of the township land.
Okay.
And that's in the water, I believe, so.
Yes.
So
Yes,
we're
it
gonna
is in
yeah,
water,
yeah.
which is crown,
Yeah,
right?
so,
all
well,
water is crown land. Yeah.
Well, as it was mentioned earlier.
In Ontario.
That we, okay. So anyway, so we will definitely look into that as well. I think there's a little bit of confusion there, and it could be our fault, about removing the material from township lands.
Yes.
And removing it from the water, but we have your message and we'll look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And our next speaker is Mike Kenny. Mike? Pass. Thank you. Skippy Hale.
Thank you very much for the privilege of speaking. First of all, I have no personal feelings or upset about the people who have docks. My upset is that because this is public land, I do not feel that we should have private docks. The more there are there, the less comfortable I have been to be able to walk down, especially on the weekends. You feel like you're walking through somebody's living room because of the families that are gathered there. The people there assumed that they had the rights, and my upset is with decades of politicians, councils who have allowed this problem to exacerbate, so there are more docks than when I first moved here, and I used to see children jumping off and playing. There were always children at the public dock. You hardly ever see that now. I would like to be able to take my grandchildren down and have a picnic along the waterway anywhere, but that's not possible. So my upset is not with these people because they were misinformed and allowed to do it. I know how much of a nuisance it is if you own a boat and you don't have waterfront. I have waterfront, but except for spring runoff, our boat couldn't do anything but just sit on the rocks. And when we would go to Barnet, by the time we got the boat in the water, parked the car and the trailer and got back in the boat, I know it's a nuisance and it's not fun. But the problem is, I can't put a dock on Madawaska Street. There are docks on Madawaska Street without people living there, I know that. But I cannot put a dock there if I wanted to. And I would not have the right to go and sit on any of those docks because it's private property. But the docks are on public property. I'm a ratepayer, and I should have the freedom to go anywhere on Madawaska Street and bring my family. I want to thank Leo Mulvihill for his presentation. I used to delight in watching children that I knew from the library playing on the dock and watching fishermen there. You don't see that much anymore. Anyway, that's it. I've had my say. I really do think that public land should be available to all of the ratepayers and not be just for certain people who live across the road. And it's nothing personal. It's just a matter of justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Skippy. Next speaker is Laurent Coulibaly. Sorry. Laurent.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. And I would like to thank you, everyone from Calabogie, because I felt and my family felt welcome in Calabogie since we moved here in 2011. Unfortunately, I have been bullied many times by the people of the township. You would be surprised to hear that, but that is the fact. I live here in Calabogie. I have been bullied on many occasions here in the township. And when I received that notice to move my dog from the water by October 1st, I was really shocked. I was shocked because it was a letter like sending something to a bandit, just leave from here.
Laurent.
That was my feeling with that letter. So, I have two questions. I would like to say first, sorry if I'm talking that loud, but I want you to know what I feel. I have two questions. First question, did you sell that property to someone to develop that area? That's my first question. And second question, recently I noticed ATVs riding in the village after 11, sometimes 2 a.m. with loud music, loud noise. What the council is going to do with this kind of situation if we develop this front street? These are my two questions. I am all done. Thank you.
I just want to ensure that we got your questions.
Yeah. Can you repeat your first question, please?
First question, did you sell that property to a developer?
Did we?
Very simple.
Did we sell the property to a developer?
Yes.
Definitely not.
Second thing, what are you going to do with the ATV riding at 2 a.m. or in the middle of the night with loud music or loud noise?
Okay, so we got your first question, and the answer is definitely no. And your second point doesn't have to do with the docks on Madawaska Street, so we can talk about that separately, Laurent.
Yes, you can talk about that, but if you are going to do what you are planning to do in developing that front line, you will have to deal with a lot of issues. So right now we have a very simple issue with noise. What do you do?
This
Simple.
meeting is not about noise, it's about docks
Yes.
and waterfront property, and that is what we will deal with tonight.
Okay.
If you want to come and talk to us about the noise, that's a separate issue. We're more than happy to talk to you about that. So we took down your question on the waterfront property, and no waterfront property has been developed, and there has no plans other than it was in
A plan prepared by.
Yeah, a development plan that was prepared, and there has been absolutely no work or no decisions made by council. The only thing that was said is that before we would do anything on that, we would form a committee of the residents of the village and come up with a plan. So the answer is no, but we'll mark it down and we will repeat that to you.
Okay.
And the noise issue, I look forward to meeting with you, or perhaps what you should do is meet with the CAO regarding that question. But that's not part of tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to add one final thing, because when I received that letter from the township, I sent an email to the township. I got the confirmation my email was received, and someone will get back to me. Until today, I never got an answer to my email, to my questions. So, is the township working for the taxpayer or working for someone else? Or I'm not a resident. I have been paying my tax. I have been doing a lot of things in the community. I send a question to the township. I have no answer.
Okay, Laurent, similar to every other township, we ask the staff to respond in a timely manner to any concerns of the residents of the township. We have a CAO on staff that as part of the township, that all staff report to. If any resident is unhappy with the response or the service they're getting from a member of staff, they should direct that to the CAO, and she would see why it's not being responded to and correct that issue. So it's too late for it at this point, but once again, if you want to speak to Allison or forward that email to her, I can't answer the question because this is the first time we heard that you didn't get a response. So anyway, so that, I don't think we'll be putting that down here because that doesn't have to do so much with waterfront property either. It's, you're suggesting that staff is not being responsive. So we hear you, and Allison, so I don't know who it was directed to, but if you want to enlighten her further, well, then she could look into it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for your time.
Next speaker is Chris Fleming. Chris?
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to members of council, Mayor Hunt, and staff. And I'm very pleased, and I'm going to take a positive approach here. There is a solution, I believe, to this situation. I've given it a lot of thought. I too did a survey 2 years ago on properties owned on Madawaska Street. And in contravening your statement earlier, Ms. Holzhauer, we do own property on the waterfront side of Madawaska Street, as the survey produces, and I'll get you a copy of that. But for the most part, in general, the use of Madawaska Street is going to become a very important part of the future of Calabogie. It's going to help define Calabogie, so it is an important topic. So this meeting was, I think, well-timed. I think getting the survey done was a good plan to understand where the properties are and who has ownership. At the same time, there's a lot of tradition here, and that cannot be ignored and needs to be discussed, and that's what this meeting is. It's a discussion and to air the facts and to discuss the anxiety of certain options. So I'll produce that survey to you, but I also said I came with a solution. And Ontario Power Generation is probably the largest landowner of waterfront property in this township. OPG has a proven system to deal with landowners that are adjacent to their water line control. And this situation here is very similar to that. What OPG does to mitigate liabilities and to define the use of this property is not to withdraw or remove the ability to use the property, but they have a contract or an agreement that they have in place, and it's a legal document that you can elect to review and disperse and talk about and have another meeting on, where these property owners could in fact potentially sign a working agreement under the township letterhead as the property owner to use these lands in a continuous fashion as defined in the agreement. Again, risk management, liability is the key factor, I believe, in a lot of these discussions. There's also a traditional right that can't be ignored. So it's an interesting opportunity. It's not a problem. It's an opportunity to come up with a way to satisfy as many people as possible. So I would encourage a contact, and I would be willing to sit in a meeting with Ms. Burnett from OPG, who controls OPG's land use agreements and contracts that they sign with individuals to create a solution. And I think a solution is warranted here, and I think it's a good way to approach this. The ability to talk about this is very well received, and I appreciate your time in these busy times to discuss this and to put yourselves out there like this to at least get going on a dialogue to mitigate a solution. So, thank you.
Chris, before you leave, just a point of clarification on the OPG agreements. The OPG agreements that you have seen, and I've seen some as well, but the ones I've seen is where if my lot extended to the water, which was the waterfront was owned by OPG, you entered into an agreement. Have you seen them where it's across a roadway or so on that they, OPG, have entered into that type of agreement?
I haven't seen it where a roadway separates the use, but I have seen where on surveys and in plans of subdivision in new developments where OPG is clearly defined as the owner, they have water capabilities no different than a roadway, in my opinion, other than traffic, but they...
Well, and I've spoke to some of the residents like down in Fleming Lane, and some of them signed agreements with OPG, and it's what you're talking about. Their property is continuous to the waterfront, where we run into a challenge is when you have a road in between. Well, who has the right to go across from that? You know, like there's a new home being built across from Barnett Park. Do they have the right then to put a dock out on Barnett Park? It's questions we're getting, and this
Yeah, understood.
carries on throughout the township. So as Alan has said in the opening, is this is a little more far-reaching than Madawaska Street, because a lot of people lately are coming out of the woodwork and they want access to the water. So definitely happy to meet with OPG and so on, but it's it would have to go further than my land going to the water and signing that, you know.
Yeah, I think the OPG document is a template. It would need to be modified. Yeah, I think it has a lot of the charisma it's going to take to come up with an agreement. I encourage an agreement or some sort of future use here, but at the same time, it has to protect township, and we have to respect tradition here somehow.
Yeah, and one of the big challenges is, you know, who do you sign the agreements with? Is it all 2,500 residents of the township can have access to it? Is it, you know, 10? How do you select that stuff? There's lots of challenges with this for sure, but I certainly appreciate your remarks, and we'll look further into that and probably contact you regarding it.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was the end of our list. I'm going to call to see if anyone else would like to speak. Okay, well, just a minute. Okay, go ahead.
She did.
Okay. Please introduce yourself, because I don't have your name
I'm
here.
Sheila Dalton, and I live in Norway Lake.
Okay.
So I'm strictly an observer.
Right down.
Oh, sorry. I think we have to, I'm sorry, because I've been finding it difficult to hear people speaking, and here I am doing the same thing. You'll have to forgive me. It's a pleasure to see all of you, and I applaud you for taking the positions that you do on the council. I think it's wonderful that people step up and try to do something for their community. And I do want to remind you that you are working for us, that is your job, to try and solve problems in the community for the people. And I have to applaud Chris for his coming up with what sounded to me like a very plausible solution, or a way of working out a solution which will be agreeable to everybody. The fact that it's years and years since 43, I heard one woman say they own property there, and suddenly you're dropping this thing at their feet. And it seems strange to me that you're suddenly doing this. It's knowing how nice it is to have a dock, be on a lakefront and have a dock, and the joy that it brings to the children and the whole family and generations after generations. It just struck me, I'm just strictly saying as an observer, it struck me, it was sad that this has come about. And what am I doing? I would urge you to really think about the people that you're affecting, not just this generation, but generations to come, and the fun that the children have with a dock and a boat. And that's really all I wanted to say. And I hope you'll really consider the people involved, not so much, I don't know, the business that's involved in this. I've been coming to Calabogie since 1954, and it's always been such a beautiful, first a town. I don't know if they're going to be calling it a city soon with all the building that's going on, but it's just something that's really special, and to force people to change what they've always loved and held on to for their families. I just hope you will all consider that seriously, very seriously. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Kevin? Yeah.
Check 1, 2. Hi, everybody. How's it going? I'm Kevin. I'm from Calabogie. I've been fortunate enough to, guys, I'd like to say hi to everybody. Chucky, Lucy, Allison, Brian, John, Glenn. I just want to go over riparian rights. And I also want to say our impact statement says waterfront property. So that's how you say 2,600 people. Well, we say waterfront. Not everybody says waterfront. Okay, thank you. I do sing and play, so I think I know how I use one. But anyways, so there's 4. I got a blog from Century 21. It's from 2020, and I'm sure that they have, they wouldn't be able to publish this kind of thing if it was lies or fake or whatever. But it explains the difference between the 4 different types of waterfront. So the people that are on the lake that have homes right to the lake are called private direct waterfront, and that is gold standard waterfront property. This form of ownership is exactly as described, private and for owner's private use, not to be confused with waterfront privacy. You will have neighbors on both sides. With this ownership of private waterfront comes riparian rights. Typically, private direct waterfront is the most expensive in terms of purchase price and taxes. So private non-direct waterfront is what I live in. Okay, my pontoon boat is down there. It's got the nice Pirates flag on it. I do a lot of tours on the lake. I do it all the time. It's similar to private direct waterfront, but a municipal road right-of-way or provincial highway separates the dwelling from the waterfront. It says here, this is Kawartha Lakes. You do own the waterfront and enjoy all the riparian rights. Typically, this form of ownership is less expensive than private waterfront in terms of purchase price and taxes. The third kind, which is deeded water access, which is like some of the developments around here where there's a deeded spot where they can go, where they can use the waterfront and then that's great, So that's your third kind, according to this this publication. So then number 4 would be public water access, which there is public water access for pretty well everybody, well, in the world or whatever, in Ontario for sure. So that's number 4. And what else I want to say? I think that was basically about it, but it's, and I loved Chris's way to get this problem solved. Because to be honest with you, I probably lost 10 pounds, 15 pounds in the last 3 weeks or whatever since this letter has gone out, okay? Calabogie, I have skied here for 53 seasons this year. This is my town, this is my country, this is my love, this is my God. Why you want to take that away from me totally blows me away. How you people can be, I'm not saying you guys, I just mean you just don't understand how awful it is to feel the way that I do, that you are hurting my country, that this is my God, this is my paradise. You want to take it away from me. I feel totally ashamed to be here because of that. I just can't believe it. I can't believe it. It's just so hurtful. Sorry. But it's true.
Okay, give your name again?
Lauren Lorna McDermott,
Lorna McDermott.
and own a property on the Calabogie Lake there. And Ken and Barb McCaffney have their boat on my property, and then every year they move it off to my property. But I don't think they can move it the 2nd of October this year. Is that right, Barb? Or do you want it moved earlier? You're going to keep it?
Yeah, I think, Lorna, we're hearing that the October 1st date may be too early, so we'll certainly, we marked that down, we'll certainly look at that date. I know myself, I never took my dogs out before Thanksgiving, so
Because the
so we're hearing that.
guys that take the boats out, that they don't come until sometime around the 2nd week of October. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Barbara Marsh, and my question has never been answered. The question is the why. The why now, and why that people have been using it, my neighbor, for 60 years, and then now you decide to do this. And why you, all of a sudden, this downtown image. You have had opportunity in this town to make money, and you haven't. It's been right in front of you. When the COVID started, there was people going up to the Eagle's Rest. There were people parked all along that roadway for almost 2 years. And at the last minute, after people have even wrote in letters to say, hey, this is a great opportunity to make public parking. Did you? No. Instead, you left it to the last minute, like usual. I've lived here for 20 years. Every year, I phone the township about that flag because nobody looks up. Nobody looks up to the sky and sees that the flag needs to be repaired. Instead, no, it comes just close to Remembrance Day, and then you remember to do it. How are you going to maintain a village when you can't even maintain a street? So my question of the why is, when you open up this road, people forget, this is not just Calabogie Lake. This is a tributary. It goes from all the township. And you can put your heads down, and you don't have to look at me, because I was a person that lived through Muskoka. And I seen what happened. And I saw taxes go up 75% in 1 year. Is that what Calabogie wants? People to be taken out of their homes, their cottages, because, hey, it's a good idea. And if you ever read the facts of that, you will see that they had a type of people that they wanted there. Upscale people, rich people. That's not Calabogie. Calabogie started with nothing. And they built themselves up, and they were good folks. And I wasn't from here. I've been here for 20 years. And if I, as an outsider, could see this, and now you can't, I feel sorry for every one of you.
Thank you. My name is Brenda Shillington. I'm a resident of the township. I'm in Ward 1. I do not live on Madawaska Street.
I didn't get the name.
Brenda Shillington. Ton of worthless money. So I don't live on Madawaska Street. I don't live right in the village. And so that's why I didn't put my name down. I wasn't sure if I wanted to speak, but I do. Because I think what's really important is the things that we've heard this evening. And at first I felt better by what was coming forward. But now I'm very concerned Because now we're talking about, oh, October 1st is too early to bring them out, so maybe we should think about making it later. So really, does that mean, my question is, does that mean it's going to go ahead? Like, does this meeting stop that letter? So that's my first question. My second question is, and this has been asked before, and I want this answer, whether it can be tonight or whatever, I want to drive this home. Why? Why now? Because the timing is suspicious, considering there was the developmental report. As people have said, how long these docks have been here, I can tell you as a new resident in the last 3-4 years, I wish there was a dock that was safe to dock at and be able to go into town to go visit friends or family or go to the cafe or go to church, any of those things that people would like to do. But there really isn't. And it isn't just that the dock isn't safe, the public dock, it's that getting in, there's a lot of hazards. So that's a whole other issue. So my concern is the timing. It's very suspicious. And so, because in the absence of those docks, if the town's position is that they own that land, then you still have liability issues. They remain, whether there's a dock there or not, a private dock. My experience as a resident, I go and get chips from Dickie's, French fries. Sorry, honey, I do that sometimes on the way home. On the way to the grocery store, so I don't overbuy. But I don't like to sit at the bogey store to have them. I'll drive down and sit on the waterfront and eat my French fries. I've never felt uncomfortable doing that. I've never run into crowds, and I usually go Saturday mornings, Saturday afternoon. Never had any issues. I respect what Skippy said earlier, that that she hasn't felt welcome, and I think that's really unfortunate. And that may or may not be everyone's experience. Regardless, I think it's important for us to know, A, whether or not the letter is going to be rescinded, or is that even a consideration based on this feedback? Or is tonight about what we see as a vision for the waterfront? Because if it is, no one's really talked about that. And I have some thoughts about that. As I said, I think it would be great if we had a better public dock for people to be able to tie up to and be able to move around within the village. I think that'd be great. But what my concern is that rumors that we've heard around a boardwalk, around angled parking, making it one way, I'm sure everybody in this room has heard these rumors. They're all over the place. And I'm working, in my basement every day, and yet I still hear these rumors. So they're all over the place. And my concerns around anything like that is, we already have Barnett Park. It has boat launch, which maybe should be upgraded. We have public washrooms, which are fabulous. We have a public space. We have tons of parking. How would you possibly do that along Madawaska and have people living their lives in their homes across the street? It would be horrific. And as Laurent mentioned about the sounds of ATVs late at night, I think it is relevant, because I think what he was trying to say is that is an issue that residents in the village are already experiencing. So imagine if you have this public walkway, waterfront, then there's going to be pressure from the public. Well, why aren't there washrooms? Oh, can we park here? Can I leave my trailer here? Can we stay overnight? Can we barbecue? Can we leave our boats docked overnight? And the people living across the street will be terribly inconvenienced. And I don't think that's what any of us want. As much as we like our village to be recognized and respected and people to love coming here, we have to remember that people live here. And whatever's being considered, and I hope if that is what's happening here, we need to remember that, and there need to be a lot more public input around what your vision is, what the vision that this community has for that waterfront, and it can't be at the detriment of the people that live there.
Thanks for hearing me again. I understand where the township is with these docks. They don't want 100 docks on Front Street. I don't want 100 docks on Front Street. There is docks there. There is some boats there. There's nothing wrong with the looks of them. The guys look after their docks. But I can see the township's point. If we let one person put their dock in, well then Leo Mobby can put a dock in. David Mobby can put a dock in. We can put our docks side by side. We can join them all together. We can have a party. I see where the township is coming, and I see like Chris and that, like people want their dock and everything else, but they gotta look at the big picture. Do we want 50 docks on Front Street? I don't think so. The question, like this lady that was just up here said, well, there's no parking if we had a public dock in Calabogie. Well, if you can't park on Front Street at the church, why can't you park up in the township yard? We got a great big paved area. We got a big parking lot in the front. We got a big parking lot in the back. What are we looking for parking for? There's lots of parking. But the issue here is, if the docks go, there isn't going to be swimming for kids. And I can't understand why the people are all worried about themselves when they should be thinking of the children and the people that want to go swimming and enjoy the lake. Why don't we enjoy the lake instead of fighting? Like, I don't understand this. Thanks, Frank.
Okay, how's that? Good. So as a new resident,
Your name, please?
Kristen Marshall, I relocated here to Calabogie. I'm a teacher myself, and my husband, in fact, works for OPG. So it brought us to Calabogie, and we were very, very welcomed by many, many people in the town, and I was very, very glad for that. A shining and smiling face at the school. My children thought she was a principal. They still do. Here's the secretary, and she's amazing. And that welcoming sense is how we came to know Calabogie foremostly. And I have to say, a little bit of pressure being super new here, and really weird that you're behind me, but to address council, but to be talking about, we as the citizens here and what we want to see, I can say that the vibrance the children bring to a community, Leo, is that? Yeah, and Skippy had mentioned the children and the future of Calabogie, and a lot of things that are echoing in my head are why now? Well, part of why now is perhaps because there is so much growth in Calabogie. I brought 3 boys and a dog, right? So, and I'm only one of this year alone in our tiny little school. It's not so tiny anymore. We have 14 new children at the school in 1 year. And that's a direct result of 9 brand new families, young families alone. So I would love to see something done with the waterfront, if in fact the township does own it, that will bring that vibrance and that viability and that family sense and maintain it. Like Leo had mentioned about the docks and the kids and the jumping and the swimming. I left St. Catharines for that reason. I was born in Smooth Rock Falls outside of Kapuskasing. So basically in Calabogie, I hit the tropics and couldn't wait to dive into the water, right? Typically it was 51 degrees that I was used to, so this is awesome. But I will also say, this is my pitch to council. The transparency is important to your citizens, and I can feel the sense of, and I've heard the sense of uncertainty and the lack of trust there. So for mostly, if this hearing was scheduled at a time where perhaps the township did have a plan and council did have a plan for what would be the Front Street, the Madawaska Street frontage for the township, that would, I think, allay a lot of suspicions here for sure. And I do look forward to getting a little bit more involved now that I'm not so busy building a house. I feel like I can be a better community member in the future. But a lot of these questions I do echo, and I understand the sense of tradition, and I understand the sense of we've always done it that way, but that doesn't make it right, and that also doesn't really help us move forward and grow as a community together. A space that I can echo your sentiments, Skippy, about feeling like I was walking into somebody's living room, because I was really unsure of what even Front Street was. I assumed everybody that had a dock there owned that, because that was just the assumption, and stay away because that's theirs. So I echo a lot of the sentiments here, and I do want to foremostly say to council that the vibrance and the viability that young families are bringing and how much it's changing Calabogie, I do feel that it's viable for Calabogie to change with the people and the families bringing that vibrance here, and we look forward to that vibrance in the future. So that's it.
Anything further? Trudy? No.
I'm Trudy Wagner, and Mike and I have had a place on the lake for over 20 years. This won't be popular. I really want to disagree with Luke. What I want to disagree with him on is that he said he wasn't a good public speaker. He's an awesome public speaker. He spoke from the heart. He gave us all a history lesson, and I really think he was fantastic. I also want to agree with Luke and Skippy around seeing the waterfront used for families and children, and I think it's really important to continue. I want to agree with Sharon. We live across the lake from where the street is, and the hazards of the walkways are a bigger hazard to us than ever thinking about the docks. So they're just not plowed, it's not safe. Personally, living across, I would really miss the neighbors having the docks, with the exception of Kevin and his loud music. It is wonderful to have people across the lake, and I think it would be a loss to not see that joy and the families and enjoying public property, beautiful water, clean water, and healthy activity. So I think it's important to remember that. Kevin and Laurent spoke from the heart, and I don't want to forget that. I think there's business and there's rules and there's people, and I think they've been brave and courageous in standing up and speaking their truth, and I think we want to listen to it. Finally, I want to say that Chris put a good alternative forward, and sounds like there's going to be a committee. I'd like to volunteer for that committee. My question would be, how do we volunteer for the committee, and how are people on the committee going to be chosen? And my profession is human resources. I cannot let Laurent's allegation of being bullied go without saying that there is a duty to follow up on that. So I only have one question, and the rest are comments. The question was how to get involved in the committee.
And now, Trudy, are you speaking to the committee regarding the what is going to happen with the waterfront?
The committee on what is going to happen with the waterfront, yes.
Okay, so with our growth readiness plan, item 10 in it suggested that we should look at our waterfront, that it's a jewel, and see what should happen with that. So contrary to public opinion, there has been absolutely no decisions made. There's been no property sold. That's a very narrow strip of property. So, and in the growth readiness plan, it said between 2023 and 2028 that this should be done. When we got it, we said, well, sooner is better, and what we most likely should look at is they suggested getting a consultant, and I think they threw in a figure of $50,000. We said, well, we don't feel we need that. What we need to get is the committee of the residents of Calabogie, get the people, get representation from the people that live on the street. So that will not be started in this year. Hopefully it'll be started next year. So at that point, similar to other committees, we put it out. You have the opportunity to put your name forward if you want to join the committee. So, and while we're speaking about that, there seems to be, but no one has ever come and talked to me, and I don't think they've come to talk to any other councillor about what is this about waterfront, because I would gladly explain to them that nothing has been done. You know, this property has not been sold. There is no plan out there. Like we've thrown around things like, should there be a boardwalk that connects, and this was before the waterfront, that connects Heritage Point to Barnett Park. You could park at Heritage Point, walk up to Barnett Park or bicycle or whatever and back. You know, those are just pie in the sky, but there's been nothing done on it. So hopefully there will be a committee, and that speaks to what, and to speak to why now, it is not because of the growth readiness study. It's because people are, and I think it was Kristen spoke to it, is with more people coming in, they're coming to us now and saying, there's docks on Front Street, can I put one there? We've had a boat business come to us, say, can we put a dock at Barnett Park? And, you know, and we'll build a dock for you, and we'll have a dock where we could park our boats and be able to rent boats out. We said, no, like that's not what the public land is for. But if people are allowed just to go and set their docks, how do we stop that? So that's kind of why now. It's because we have a whole bunch of people complaining that they shouldn't be there, and we have a whole bunch more people coming and saying, I want to be there with them. So it's kind of started to get a handle on this, and so maybe it wasn't well done, but the idea was, okay, it's township land, you're not going to be allowed to put your boat lifts or property, because that was one of the big complaints. They said for 6 months of the year it looks terrible when we go down there. So that was the start of it. There hasn't been a decision made long term. Perhaps council will decide with input from the public what will happen with those docks. You know, perhaps maybe it's status quo. I don't know the answer, but part of the idea was to put a stoppage on any more, because that whole waterfront, if people had their way, would have a dock to dock. So I don't think we want that either. So it's kind of to take a step back and have a look at it. We're not perfect. We tried to do the best we could, sent out the letter. I appreciate whenever you interfere with what's been done in the past. It upsets people, especially those that are affected themselves. You know, I can see the passion when Kevin speaks, and Sharon and everyone else, you know, and what it has done to them. And I hope we come out with a solution that's satisfactory for everyone. But to your point, as far as the committee, I won't be there personally, but I'm sure it'll be handled as in the past. It'll be posted that this committee is being formed. You put your name forward, and there'll be a selection criteria.
Okay. Thank you very much. And you might want to consider status quo until there is a decision. That might be a way to address kind of the immediate emotion, but thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, that's it as far as speakers. I don't know if we can let you up again, Kevin. I doubt it, but go ahead.
Hi, Council. I'm back again. I just wanted to mention, because of the fact that we are a waterfront property where I live, okay, I have a dock there. My neighbor Len has one. Barb and Luke have one. Carrie has one. These people have always had a dock there. So, but which I know I've already said. But the thing is, you're worried about saying, well, everybody comes down and puts a dock, but we're the ones that hold the title that says waterfront property. So if I'm allowed to have, let's say if we come to an agreement, it's very easy. If you don't have that waterfront title, then you're not allowed to get a dock in. That's my opinion. You know what I mean? Like if you don't hold that waterfront title, then you can't get a dock in. Then that way it's very easy for the township to say, no, we're not having any docks anywhere. You don't own title to anything here. We're not doing it in Barnett Park. We're not doing it in Heritage Point. Just no, no, no. You know what I mean? And if you want to make a really nice, beautiful dock down by where the old observation dock is, where you can have everybody come in to go to the Redneck, to go to the Calabogie Brewery, to go to wherever that they want to go. Like, I have no restrictions. I think that's a great idea. I have no restrictions on anything that you guys want to do to push this forward so that everything gets done. Okay. You know, but I think your big concern is that you're saying, oh, there's going to be 2,600 people down on the main street. Well, no, there isn't. There's probably about 8 docks right now, okay? But all these people hold a waterfront title. So, you know, that's real easy for you to do. Are you on a yes or a no?
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Like Chris said, that he has a survey that shows that he owns property on the south side of Madawaska. If you have documentation that shows that you have a right to it, by all means, contact the CAO and get together and show her what you have and, you know, explain that. And I think that's very good information for council to have in making any future decisions. So bring that over, sit with her, and invite any of your neighbors that have similar to do the same.
Well, I just think that way, then this way it's fair. You know what I mean? Like, it's fair because my dock has been there for 79 years.
Okay. Well,
you know, 79 years.
The number
That's a
of
long
years
time.
doesn't help, but if you have a right because of a document that you have, we'll bring the document and sit with Allison.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. It was a healthy discussion, and we will, staff will take this back and investigate. Excuse me for a second, please. So staff will take this information back, and they may have to reach out to some of the people who presented for clarification. And like we said before, some people hopefully will be reaching out to us with some documentation to prove their points. And then they'll be bringing some kind of a recommendation forward to council in the near future on it. So thank you very much for coming out tonight.